Welcome to Huddle for Success, real talk, real goals, and real results, where they help you make it happen in your life and business. Your hosts are Mark Bruce and Dwayne Gibbs, and they're here to help you level up your mindset, growth, and your success. Whether you're after personal growth or financial growth, they have you covered. Now let's huddle up.
Welcome to Huddle for Success. I'm your host, Dwayne Gibbs. Alongside of me, as always, the Hall of Famer, my partner, Mark Bruce, where we come to you every Monday for our weekly podcast. Also, join us every Wednesday and Friday where we do a quick huddle up, mindful thought of the day. With that being said, let's get started. Good morning, Mark. Morning, Ben.
Morning.
Good morning, guys. I saw Ben laugh when you introduced me as the Hall of Famer.
Mark is the Hall of Famer.
That is. Who wouldn't want to be the Hall of Famer? Right?
Mark is the Hall of Famer.
I am in the DeMatha High School Hall of Fame as a team member in the 1978 team that was Morgan Wooten's only undefeated national championship team.
That's
he had
awesome.
he had many undefeated teams, he had many national champion teams, but we were the only one.
And he did not say Morgan Wallen, man. He said Morgan Wooten.
That's right. Both fine, outstanding people, I'm sure.
Anyway, he makes me laugh every time he says it too. So it's
That's
fun.
funny. That's
Hey,
good.
Ben, thank you so much for coming on, taking time to spend time with us. I've known you since 2016, which is the same time I met Dwayne. You guys were, helped teach me the note business. I formed a company back in 2016 with a mastermind partner of mine in California, and you guys were invaluable to what you taught us. And I'm so grateful for what you taught us, how you motivated us, how you helped us. And again, thanks so much for spending time with us today.
Sure, absolutely.
Tell,
So I'm really happy to be here.
yeah, tell everybody this is Ben Haught. He's our special guest today. Tell everybody a little bit about your background.
Sure, I'll give you the short version. The short version is I started investing in 1999, and like a lot of people, I started off with rentals and wholesaling and a little bit of rehab here or there. And I got involved in the note space. Actually, Dwayne really was involved with my growth in the note space, and been there since 2008. 2008, a pivotal year, as for most people, myself included. And that's really predominantly where I've stayed since then. Now, I got rid of my last rental in 2017. I think I did my last rehab in 2015. Pretty much been note centric, but because of the note space and what it gave me, I've ventured off into futures investing and crypto, obviously, getting involved in that. So there's a
Nice.
bunch of irons in the fire, but most of what I do is in the note space. So that's the quick and dirty of it.
Yeah. So, hey, this goes without being said. I appreciate you taking the time to be on. I told Mark, I said, listen, I really want to get Ben on. I think you bring a lot to the table with work ethic, and challenges, and most of all, family. Your core of why you do what you do every single day of, getting up and going over the wall is because of your family. And you've made it known as long as I've known you that I'm going to do what I have to do. But at the end of the day, I'm going to turn my phone off. I'm going to be with family. I'm going to spend time with family. And so, I'm going to pepper you with some questions, nothing tricky. You know all the answers, but a way that I just want to drive this interview where I think it's going to be important for people to really see how, if they're not currently doing it, how they need to start managing their life and really prioritizing what's important. Number one. Number two, I want to talk about your entrepreneurship of where you felt it was important to start and not having a job, and the headaches that you had getting started, and people telling you, oh, it's not going to work, Ben, go work 30 years, 40 hours a week. Let's talk about your dad, how successful he was in business, and you kind of modeled from that. So We're going to go back old school, as I call way back down the road, and I think it's very important for you to talk about that because our listeners are people that have been in a job for 20, 30 years and now looking to transition over into something else. Number one. Number two, um, they have a hard time reinventing themselves, and or they've played sports and they're wanting to do something different, and again that comes with the whole reinventing yourself. So let's talk about that. Talk about um, initial accident, what your mind thought was, and the delay, and let's I know your story, so I'll gear you in some different avenues.
Sure. Yeah. So back in 2005, I was in corporate, and I always tell people that's really a name only. I was a glorified coffee getter, but I was in corporate and was running a division. And basically, one morning on the way to work, if they're in Tampa, if you're familiar with the Howard Franklin Bridge, there's kind of an arc to it. And I was at the bottom part of the arc coming from St. Petersburg. And long story short, I was number three in a car of five, and a cherry picker, the people that cut the trees from limbs on power lines, ended up hitting us doing 85, 90. They assumed we were at a dead stop. So I had a passenger van and behind me and a Ford pickup in front of me that were
Mm.
squished. And my 18 and a half foot or 16 and a half foot bed Tacoma was just over about 9 feet with me in the middle of all that, right? And so that my accident was July 7th. My daughter was born July 14th. I still have no recollection. I mean, I was awake, but I wasn't there till about October 27th because of the accident and, kind of learning everything, rewiring the brain and all. And I will say through that, you want to talk about, tenacity and a drive. I mean, you could choose to quit, be like, okay, this is what life gave me, or hey, let's make the best of it, right? And so I chose obviously the latter part where I was like, okay, well, let's make the best of what we have. And the ironic part is that it ended up being a really good thing for me because it kind of forced me to kind of focus more on the real estate investing side, right? Because I couldn't really do much else for about a year and a half, and built up a tolerance, we'll say, of the
Mm.
mind. Whereas, like, because with entrepreneurship, I mean, you take the wins when you can get them, but everybody wants to focus in on the successes, but nobody wants to talk about kind of the failures, right? And those failures I learned a lot from. It built tenacity. It built okay, here's how we prevent that from happening again. Here's how we can kind of map that out, create a system that makes sure that we can replicate good things, right? And really just kind of built up for lack of a better term, a strong mind, right? And which I think with entrepreneurship you have to have, and you got to stay sharp, and you can either wallow again in the successes or wallow in the failures. When one's going to breed more of the other, right?
Yep. Everybody,
So,
everybody enjoys the successes, but you definitely, as you said, learn more from the failures than you
that's
do
right.
anything else.
Yeah. Now the trick is to have more successes to
Yeah.
where you don't have to learn so much,
Yes. Yeah.
right?
So talk about your dad. Your dad was very successful in business. And did you kind of drive from that? Did he steer you into that direction? Did he steer you into being in corporate America? Upcoming family? What that look like?
Sure. No, great question. My dad was a really good role model when it comes because he started a business. He took out a small little loan with two other business partners, and they grew it into. I mean, he pretty much built the foundation of most of the Nova, Northern Virginia, Maryland, D.C. area. He took again a small loan, turned into a big company, then retired from it, and then was like, well, I'm too young to do that. So he found something else to do. My dad likes to call it piddling, right?
Mm.
But because of growing up under a business owner, my dad gave my sister and I a lot of really cool life experiences, right? Now he did trade a couple of hours for dollars, running a business. But my sister and I, we had a really good uh, upbringing in the sense of we had a father figure that was there when we needed him, but also showed us the value of hard work, right? And so I took that in my work life, and I instill that in my kids as well. Saying like, you work hard, but you want to also work smart, where you don't have to work so hard, right? So it's kind of a loop. And so with him kind of being a pivotal figure in mine, I take the same approach, right? When I'm working, and I really drive in. But like you said, Dwayne, that way when we work hard, play hard, when we're playing hard with the family, we're there we're there. I'm in the moment. I'm there. I'm not thinking about other things. I'm not distracted because the systems that we have in place allow me to do that, right?
Right.
And all of it from seeing dad do it, experiencing it, the whole when the teacher's ready, the student will show up, right? So now that my kids are older, they're even saying, "Hey, Dad, how did you do this? And how did you do?" I'm like, "Well, I did it this way. Your grandfather, my dad did it this way," and let them kind of build their own path in life. So.
So you think that direction really helps scale, not necessarily business, but your life foundation?
Mhm. Oh yeah, absolutely. In fact, the work-life balance. I mean, you know the story of Himmelmeyer, but Himmelmeyer, the reason why it works is because of the work-life balance, right? And the systems that we have in place. And I didn't let it get big, and it wasn't chasing the dollar, right? I really, as both you and Mark know, I value my time. I really value my time, but it's because of the accident, because I should not have walked away from it. So, kind of borrowed time analogy there, where, I want to make the best of it. So, I mean, I was just on my way to work one morning and total life change, right? And it could happen to anybody any morning driving to work. And so that's where I wanted to give the kids like I remember if something, God forbid, would happen, they have, hey, I remember Dad, and I have these memories, and I have this, but I also learned from Dad, and I learned how to work hard and put family first above all, right?
So I sent you the book,
Mhm.
Playbook for Life, and I know that you read it. Appreciate it. You gave great feedback, great testimonial on it. But talk about younger you. If you had that book, how would that have played in your layout, so to say, of your life? Where do you feel like that would have come into play at?
Well, I tell you, it could be just because it was chapter one, but the first chapter, you speak about, and I'll put it in my words. I don't remember it, but I remember it was talking about the wealth mindset, right? And it talks about really, it's life is more than money.
Mm,
And if I could tell my younger self, no, obviously my younger self, very ambitious, and I still
mm,
am to a point, but
for
I've learned
sure.
to temper it. But it was easy for younger Ben to be like, let's chase this instead of putting what's more important first, right? And one thing I did find is that, the connections like for you and Mark that we've made, and some other connections I've made across the years.
Priceless. Priceless.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it really is. I know it's cliche, but it is worth more than money because that in fact Mark actually is responsible for a we were just talking I forget where we even were, Mark, but we were talking and you gave me an idea, and that one little idea sparked a lot of what Himmelmeyer became, right? And then Dwayne kind of as was a big part of pretty much everything that of where I run business, because again, you talk often about, Ben, focusing in on what's more important and kind of the psychology of what's going on in life, and kind of making that personal accountability in that community a big part of where Ben version 2.0 will say
Mm.
is. So if I could take Ben in my younger years and say, listen, man, here's what you need to know. Number one, it's not all about money. Connection and your network is going to be way more important because it will grow, and it's kind of a cause and effect rather than chase the dollar and then build relationships. If you build relationships, the money is just a result. It'll come in. It just happens, right?
I always say money is a result, not a cause.
Right, exactly.
Now, whether you're working at McDonald's 40 hours a week or CEO of Procter Gamble, it
Yep.
just it really if you work 40 hours and you don't get paid, it's probably unlikely you're going to go back next week to work. So obviously the result of is doing what you've done from the previous week. And so I think we all put ourselves in a position sometimes to where the money's coming in really good. And we're having some big scores and big runs on, wow, this, I didn't expect to get here that fast. And then we get caught up in the money sometimes, but yet really having that balance brings us back and realizing, you know what, it really isn't about the money. It's about, you know, the journey all the way through and what I've learned and the point that you made about connections that you've gathered over the years. You hear people talk, hey, drop me off in Anytown, USA, knowing what I know now, I can make money in it. And that has all to do with the connections, the pattern that you've led this whole way. That knowledge, somebody can't take that away from you. They may be able to take your job away or an idea away, but they can't take your knowledge away. And I think that's so important to help us not only succeed in life, but also scale our life.
Yeah, I'm so glad you got that out of the first chapter because, you know, one of the most influential books in my life is Think and Grow Rich. And I tell people that and I'm afraid that what they hear is grow rich.
Yep.
But,
Right.
and they think money right away. And while the book talks about the ability to make money, it really does talk about how to become rich spiritually
Mhm.
and financially, and which is
Mhm.
so important. So
Oh yeah,
glad you got that out
absolutely.
of the book.
Yeah, yeah. Good placement. Chapter one. It is. I'm with you, Mark. It really is it's the apex. I mean, if you can just get that, a lot of the other things in life will fall into place.
Yep,
You know.
absolutely.
So let's talk about now 2.0, Mark. I mean, Ben, that now
Mhm.
that you're here, what's that look like for you? Where I know you have some big things on the horizon that you're trying to work on and
Mhm.
with churches and
Mhm.
investments and things like that. You want to touch on that?
Sure. Yeah. So one of the things about again getting your time back, what I find also kind of a segueing into this is that when you have the pieces of your life in order, think of it like your house, right? When your house is in order, things flow a lot smoother, right? And so because of the flow that we have, I'm able to do other things and branch out, especially as the kids get older, right? I mean, Dwayne, you know this. Again, being very family oriented, my especially after the accident in the early formative years of their life, I wanted to be a presence in their life, right? But cycle of life happens, kids grow up and they move on, right? So daughter out of the house now. Our middle son is a senior and our youngest son is a freshman. So, cycle of life, dad's not as important as at least he thinks he is, right? And then they want to hang out with their friends and do that. So that gives me that time back. And as the two of you know, I'm just not wired to sit around and just sit there, right? I like what I do, and so because of that, I've been able to branch off. But it doesn't replace what I do. It allows me to be more effective. Again, keeping the mind sharp and keeping things like the SMART goals that you also talk about in the book, smart, measurable, achievable, relevant, and I'm forgetting the T,
Time,
Mark.
time
Time.
management.
Yeah, the most important thing. Yeah, forget that.
Gotta
So,
have that.
yeah. So because of that and following kind of that format, I'm able to, like Dwayne said, I'm able to allot a couple of hours, just a couple of hours a month to kind of work with churches and kind of help them get involved in investing and also with Hammelmeyer, still involved with that. Probably less than about maybe 5, 7 hours a month. So again, it's not taking a lot of time. Typically, what that looks like is just devoting a day or two throughout the month where it's just like, okay, we'll see where we're at. Did we hit our goal? Did we hit that KPI? Do we need to make adjustments? What needs to be done here in order um, to hit it? And a lot of times you hit the goals, and when you don't, you still kind of take it as a learning point to be like, okay, what caused that? Let's focus in on that, and it helps even future months to super exceed what your goals are going to be. And so all of that allows the note investing, again, that I'm predominantly in, to be the cause of that. And that's really one thing I do like about it. Looking back at corporate America, I mean, man, you put a lot of hours in, right? But you're kind of capped. And that's one thing I like about the entrepreneurial lifestyle, is that you're only capped by, what level you want to put into it. Certainly don't recommend going out there putting 80 hours a week into it. You miss life that way. And life's so much more, again, than money. And when you learn the right approach, and you put everything in order. Again, mindset's a big thing. I think a lot of people overlook that. So that's kind of how all of it goes together.
Love it.
Yeah.
Mark?
You pointed out how, your dad was kind of a mentor to you, how you've learned things from, and I'm honored that I planted a seed in your mind. But one of the things Dwayne and I work a lot on together is masterminding, and when you bring people together and you have conversations, the results are exponential from what you could do on your own. So I appreciate you pointing that out to people. Also, what I'd like to point out to some of our listeners is, as an entrepreneur, you just don't have one stream of income. You've got multiple streams of income,
Right.
which is
Right.
so key. And I don't know if you want to touch on, was that planned, or did it just happen, or what?
Well, it's kind of a mixture. It's a mixed bag. It's a mixture of both. A lot of it was planned, but in the planning, there was a lot of unforeseen benefits that kind of came into it. I'll say this. There's also a part, and I forget where in the book, but you guys talk about fear of faith, in the sense of building, your decision making out of it. And I think that, the Dwayne and I have talked about this often. Fear and faith, right? So, it comes to the decision making time, right? And so, when with fear, there's a lot of, like your heart starts to pound, you start to get a little sweaty, maybe you start to kind of like get tense. But what's funny is, if you describe those emotions or those feelings, it's the same as faith, right? I mean, they both have the same thing. It's just determined by your brain and kind of the outlook on life. So you can take that. But Dwayne and I said, the problem is that most people have made so many fear-based decisions that when they have that, like, man, this is exciting, and I think it works, it's equated to fear, because it's the same feelings and same emotions. So they talk themselves out of entrepreneurship a lot, and a lot of really good decisions that could be good, because they make their decisions based off of the wrong thing. And so in that book, that is one thing that, probably the second thing that stood out to me as well, is keeping, like, what's driving this decision. Is this a fear decision, or is this a faith, like, man, I'm excited about this. I think we can do this. And when you have that approach of, I think we can do this, that positivity lends itself to positivity, which helps the outcome to be positive, right?
Yeah.
Versus going into it fear-based, where I don't know. Well, I mean, without sounding crass, I mean, what do you think that's going to end up if you go into it thinking, oh, I don't know, could be, I'm fearful. Well, of course it's not going to work out, right?
That's
But you
right.
take that same person and you say, like, listen, man, we can do this. One of the examples I use all the time in talking to people is, say an accident. Like, Ben, you never drive again? Well, no, but you had a horrible accident. So I've had 3 or 4 accidents in my life. It doesn't stop me from driving, you know. I still get to where I want to go, and I get to enjoy life, and I get to, have even the road experience, the road trip type things, or even small trips. It is truly a matter of a mindset. And I think keeping that mindset in a positive frame will definitely help other people get to where they want to be if they just kind of eliminate fear.
Yeah, I mean, all the people that we would sit across from every single weekend, the fear of succeeding was just as much as fear of failure.
That's right.
And it's so um
You
I
wouldn't
don't
think
know.
you wouldn't think that, but it is
I,
very true.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and I think that there are a lot of people that listen not only to our podcast but others, and we constantly hear it is, well, what's the next step? They're so rushed to worry about what the next step is to where they haven't mastered the first step. So trust me, there's a plan. There's always a plan.
Mhm.
It just depends on which way you want to go down that road. I mean, if you want to worrying about putting the cart in front of the horse so much, you're never going to go anywhere. And I think that I wish that we all at some point in our life had a shot to where we could give somebody a shot in the arm to where they could see, everything is going to be okay. It would make the entrepreneurship so much more higher than what it is, and people would trust in themselves of either failure, hey, I'm going to learn from the failure, and also succeed from the wins that I have, and that they can see it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well,
Actually,
I mean,
my mentor, Bob Proctor, teaches that the unknown, not knowing, is what causes fear. But on
yep,
the other side, knowledge and learning is what causes faith. And faith and
yep.
fear, as you said before, they are exact opposites. And
And
so,
that's all part of thinking in the results of that what we teach. And so it's funny. I had a buddy of mine that I was telling Mark that read the book, and he said, "Man, I tell you, I had to go out and I joined the gym. I joined the gym that afternoon." And I'm like, "Good for you, man." He's like, "I've been wanting to do it for so long." And he said, "Tell me about thinking in the results." And so we talked about it. And he said, I really didn't realize what you and Mark were building with this whole paradigm shift of educating someone of how to overcome the fears, how to be able to work with a mentor, how to work in a mastermind group to where I can succeed in no matter what it is that we want to do, and that's how we help people.
yeah.
Yeah. You said reinventing yourself a few moments ago, and I think people look at reinventing themselves as I got to change everything and completely, be a different person. I'm like, well, the way I look at it is more of I think you said it stuck out with me. It's a skill, not an issue or not a pro. Anyway, it was a great quote, but what I got out of it was that reinventing myself, I'm staying relevant, right? There's a little expression I like to tease people with. I could sell a tube TV or I can sell a flat screen plasma 12K TV, right? They're both TVs, but
That's
which
right.
one's relevant, right?
That's
The
right.
12, yeah. So I mean, the market for tube TVs is really slim, right?
They make great boat anchors because they're
That's
heavy
right.
as could be.
That's it. Yeah. So, reinventing yourself, it's not that you're becoming a totally different person. I mean, I don't say I reinvent myself every week or every month, but I'm constantly like, okay, well, what's staying ahead of the wave? As kind of Dwayne, you used to tell me a lot. We want to stay ahead of that wave so we can ride it versus missing out on it and kind of wiping out or just missing it out altogether. So, when you take the approach of, okay, what can I change, and those little micro changes throughout the week or month, you're constantly growing, right? And becoming a better version. I know that's cliche, but I mean, we all want to be a better version,
No,
right?
absolutely. I mean, I give so much credit to Mark because, as you know, Ben, there for a while, after my dad passed, I was in a lag time for a good year and a half.
Hmm.
And it was like I had all this information in my head. It was just, how can I help people get over not only what I've been through, but also help people achieve their goals and how not to fall behind and how to not put the cart in front of the horse and all of that. And I knew that I wanted to go into a to some type of training platform because that's all I know. That's what I've done for 30 years. And now how can I help someone? And until Mark came along and gave me some information and said, "Hey, look at this, read this," and it was like that's the first thing that sat me up in my seat. And I've heard a lot of things, and that was kind of like the popping of the balloon to where I knew I had to reinvent myself, but I already had all the information. I just needed that one thing to set me up in my seat. And as going through Bob Proctor's training and thinking in the results of what we teach, that was it. So, we all figure, just like you said, we all think, oh gosh, what am I going to do? I got to reinvent my whole stuff. No, it's already there. It's already there. It's just that one aha moment or the switch going off and a light bulb shining brighter on what you currently already have and being able to create a different path. Not new. Well, it's new, but it's a different path than you went down before, that you're able to get those progressions of wins. And so that was a good point.
Well, I think that also goes back to that momentum that you were talking about at the beginning. I mean, the mastermind, the momentum, I mean, they're catalysts for success, right?
Sure.
And so if you're like-minded people, when you hang around like-minded people, you get like-minded results, right? So if you're hanging around, as the old joke goes, like some of you are thinking, man, I really need a change. Well, you need new friends, right? So, you want to surround yourself with people
No
who are
question.
like saying, hey, we can do this and we can go charge this hill and we can conquer it. But it's that momentum you talked about, right? I mean, if it when the momentum, kind of think baseball, right? Dwayne, you and I both were very familiar with baseball, and so there you go, right? And so
Iron
with
Man.
the with baseball, when you get in a slump, I mean, you could stay in that slump and you can get down on yourself, but that momentum, all it takes is one little micro change,
Mm.
one pitch, one at bat, one thing, and it completely changes that momentum. And now all of a sudden you're on a tear. You're hitting 300, 330, hitting home runs, winning games, and I mean, and that makes the other people that you're with, that changes. I mean, you go back to the Nationals. I mean, nobody would have thought the Nationals would have won a championship back in 2018, 2019, whenever they did,
Right.
right? But it was just that one little change in the lineup, and that momentum produced a World Series. The team started getting like, hey, we can do this. The general manager, I mean, all of them were like, no, and they battled and they won, just like any of us can do.
That's it.
So,
That's
That's
a
it.
theme. That's a theme on any sports team. That's why we love working with athletes. Because, man,
yep.
I mean, I've got a picture of a book right there, and it's Morgan Wooten and Sidney Lowe and Derek Wittenberg on either side of them. They were my teammates on our Hall of Fame team, and I photobombed them because I knew the picture was going to at least make the newspaper. But anyway, they played for Jimmy Valvano at NC State, and they were the cardiac kids. They beat Houston in probably one of the biggest upsets of all time in college basketball. And it was because they believed they could. Jimmy Valvano, at the beginning of the year, the first practice, he brought a ladder out and a pair of scissors. And they said, guys, we're cutting these nets down. And that's today's practice. And he planted that seed in their mind. And it's just so powerful. Is,
Mm.
you know, it's exciting. I love the sports analogies. That was
It's
great.
good stuff. Well, Mark, do you have anything else before we let Ben go? Any other
Um,
questions?
I don't know. Anything else you'd like to to tell people that you're looking for?
Well, I would say here's the only thing I would kind of the cherry on top is, again, tying it all together. All of it boils down to mindset, right? The momentum's a mindset. The master, everything boils down. It's the number one. Your mind, what you tell yourself, is is what it produces, right? The brain doesn't know fiction from fact. And
Right.
so, if you sit there and you say, "Oh, this is going to turn out whatever," well, that it's funny how it always turns out with whatever your brain's thinking, right? So the brain, going back to Think and Grow Rich, is my point in bringing it up, is that it's not just with relationships or with monetary policies or anything. It's everything in life. And when you surround yourself or get yourself involved with somebody who can keep you optimized and really working at your peak, the brain's a powerful tool, right? But
Absolutely.
sometimes it takes a lot of people to run it, if you get what I'm saying. It's not just one person.
That's a
So,
good, that's good. I like that.
yeah.
Yes.
Well, listen, anybody that wants to get in touch with you, what's the best way for that? We will put in the description of Mark will do that. He's our board guy, and also he'll put all your pertinent information in. Where can they go if they want to reach out to you and get connected with you?
Sure. Yeah. The best place is just ben@hamelmeyer.com. That's a email that goes straight to me. It's not through a VA or any of my other or processes. Goes straight to me. So
We're
ben at
getting straight
hamelmeyer.com.
clearance here. Straight
That's right.
clearance.
Straight to the source, right?
Straight to the source. Love it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, listen, Ben, we appreciate having you on. We've been trying to make it happen and glad we did. So with that being said, hey, we appreciate you, the listener, tuning in to this episode of Huddle for Success. Again, join us every Wednesday and Friday as we do our weekly Huddle Up. And with that being said, tune in, like, share, make comment, and we will see you on our next episode. Talk to you soon.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of Huddle for Success. If you found it helpful and want to support others on their journey, share this podcast, leave us a rating, and drop your thoughts in the comments. We'll see you next week on Huddle for Success. Stay huddled up.